I would have been a director, possibly the chairman, would have had a shareholding, and it would have been a labour of love. It wasn't about the money. The moment you buy a football club or talking about potentially buying a football club, you're in the newspapers.
You both kindly sent me a list of sort of like life highlights and stuff you've done. I've got to be honest, Theo. Thogdad's was a lot more extensive. Like he's been around the block a bit, right?
Yeah.
One that particularly stuck out for me is that you almost bought Oldham Athletic.
Yes.
I need to know everything.
Right. Basically, so I was working out in... there's a West Ham link here.
Oh, okay.
I was working out in St. Petersburg for this brewery, and there's a bunch of shareholders, one of which was an Icelandic businessman who loved football. At the time, he owned Club Reykjavik.
Right.
And he was looking to buy a football club. And he came to me with this particular third-level football club. I looked at the numbers, and I looked at the name and said, leave that well alone. Oldham Athletic was put up for sale in 2001 in the Times newspaper. They put an advert in the paper saying, for sale, Oldham Athletic Football Club. I looked at that, and I've got a family link. Most of my family is from Oldham. I'm a Bolton fan. I've always been a Bolton fan, but my family's from Oldham. So I saw that advert, and I wrote to Oldham, and on the Monday, the day later, I was at Boundary Park saying, I represent a consortium of businessmen who would be interested, before I'd actually spoken to the consortium. I spoke to the consortium, including this Icelandic guy, and said, why don't we do it? So I did all the what's called the due diligence. I looked at the numbers and the finances. It's a properly run club. It certainly was then. Good directors, very little debt. It ticked all the boxes. But then somebody moved quicker than we did. A guy came up from London and bought Oldham and royally got it wrong over the next 5 years.
Really?
But it was it's one of those situations when we moved too slowly.
Yeah.
That's why we didn't end up buying it. I would have been a director, possibly the chairman, would have had a shareholding, and it would have been a labour of love. It wasn't about the money, and I was going to be buying it on, like I said, on behalf of other people. The guy so this consortium then went off, and a few years later they bought West Ham. You remember you had an Icelandic owner?
Yeah.
It's those guys.
Goodman? No, what was his name?
Björgolfur Gudmundsson.
Yeah. Wow, the guy with the bald head.
There was
oh no, his was Eggelbert.
Yes, Eggles. Now that guy, Eggles. Yes, he was the chairman. He wasn't the owner.
Right.
He owned probably 1% or 5%.
Question, just random. Why were you not involved in the West Ham one? Why not just Oldham?
He just went off and did his own thing.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes in life you drift, and he went off and did that. And good luck to them. And a great guy actually. Obviously, it was funny actually. I was in the chairman's suite for West Ham Bolton in 2008.
Right.
And we beat you 3-1, and it was on a Saturday. And I was sat next to the chairman of the bank, another guy. And throughout the dinner before the game, he was constantly looking at his phone. I thought that's a bit rude. Anyway, he was obviously getting texts about what was going down in Iceland, because 2 days later, the Icelandic economy collapsed.
Jeez.
The banks collapsed. You remember that? Back to 2008. And that was literally hours before that. I was sat next to him at West Ham.
Wow.
So he was losing money by the second whilst you're speaking to him.
Yeah.
And that's probably why he wasn't too interested in the dinner that day.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Wow. So in a parallel universe somewhere, we could have seen Thogdad own Oldham Athletic.
Yes.
Do you think that you would have done a good job?
I like to think it would have been well run, yes.
Because you have a personal connection with that club and you love
Yes.
it.
You've also got a history in running companies in that same sort of role.
Correct. Now, I mean, the football industry, it's a funny old industry. And obviously you learn a lot. And I wouldn't, with my own money, I'm not sure I'd touch I wouldn't touch a football club with yours, as they say, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
To some extent, it's a mug's game. But I like to think if I was in the boardroom there, we'd have run it properly, sensibly, in a sustainable way.
Yeah. So it's really interesting to me. Like, let's put a hypothetical question out there.
Yeah.
If you both, this is for both of you, if you could buy a football club now, money's no object, but going forward it becomes an object. So what is a good project for you, would you say now? Looking at the football teams, the 92 in the English leagues or whatever it may be. Do you understand? So you get it for free almost, but whatever it goes on to make, profit or loss, you take that on. What's your safe bet?
Bolton, for me, straight up, because they've got a passion for it. I want the best for it more than anything else.
Is there profit potential there?
It's more about just wanting to get Bolton up the leagues. I mean, I know I'd feel the pressure of making a decision that could, I could be the part of the reason it would fall or go up, but I feel like I'd handle the pressure. I'd want to do that more than anyone else, more than any other football club. I think I'd be having sleepless nights thinking, what could I do to make this go right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just that passion, underlying passion.
I think my advice is just completely avoid having shares in a football club. And I think reading what Sir Alan Sugar has written and said about his time at Tottenham, he just said, I was a complete mug, even getting involved with this game.
Why so much? Like, why?
You'll never be thanked by the fans. I mean, there's good owners, there's bad owners, but the fans will never turn around and say, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for pumping in your millions, making losses year in, year out. Very few people make money out of football. Very few. Okay, the Glazers have. The Henrys probably have it.
What about Abramovich? Has he made money from it? Or?
Do you know, ironically, I thought when he first came in, I thought it was more of a game, really. I thought it was more a sort of geopolitical thing. Right, I'm going to put, $1 billion into Chelsea, and that's going to be a place. If I'm kicked out of Russia at any point, I can just come and be in England.
Oh.
I watched a video on this, though. Abramovich is making a lot of money.
But ironically,
he's losing money like at the second right now, terribly, from all the money he's having to put in. But the moment he sells it, he's well up in profit. He's also given the name of his family and his company a better outlook worldwide by being the front man of Chelsea Football Club.
Yeah, I agree. I think actually, ironically, Abramovich, you're right there, would come out with a profit if he sold tomorrow. But I think, in terms of, if you look at the 92 clubs, how many of those owners would honestly say, yeah, we made a profit from this? Probably a dozen.
So do they do it for the love of it then? Because it doesn't sometimes, like, look at Mike Ashley. It doesn't seem like he has a lot of love for Newcastle, does it?
No.
I think a lot of the time it's just trying to make your family name go a little bit better than what it was before.
Yeah.
You see, like in F1, Mazepin, the whole situation with his dad owns like the F1 team and his son's the F1 driver, and he's got a terrible track record, and Formula One can't even kick him out because if there's a billionaire in the sport, they're more powerful than the fans. That's the attitude. And it's the same in football. If you're that wealthy, you probably can come out with a profit because you're willing to take the losses at first to be able to come out in the end with a lot of money.
I think you get a few chances. I mean, you get a few people with enormous egos. Lawrence Bassini,
Oh, God.
Which one's it?
So that was the real lows of Bolton Wanderers when we were going through financial crisis, and he came in and said he was going to save it all. And he had no real...
the moment you buy a football club or talking about potentially buying a football club, you're in the newspapers. You're all over social media. People are talking about you. So if you've got an ego and you want to be talked about by a football club, if you go and buy a brewery or a manufacturer of bottled water, no one's talking about you. Nobody's interested.
He turned up, Dad, do you remember when he turned out outside the Bolton ground with
know.
Papers, and he was telling Bolton players why he's going to take us back?
Why he's going to what?
Why he's going to take us back to success. We had like a list of papers, and he
told
told Bolton fans to turn up on Facebook and Twitter, just be like, "Oh, just come outside the ground, and I'm going to tell you why."
Really?
And the Bolton fans simply they roasted him because the guy, people think, you can kind of get the idea. He had a plan, but it's if you believe in it.
Back
risky.
in the day when it wasn't a big money thing, you'd have the local mill owner or the local scrap metal millionaire who'd buy the club because he was connected to the community.
Yeah,
you'd still occasionally get that, I think. Local entrepreneurs. So you've got at Bristol City, you've got what do they call? You've got a local. You've got the local billionaire basically owns it. Lansdowne, yeah.
Lansdowne.
Sometimes I think you've just got chances. Sometimes you've got people who think, I'm better than the rest. I can make money out of football. Most of the time, it's a complete disaster.
So would you ever go down that route? Would you ever buy a football club?
No, I wouldn't.
No.
Touch it. I would rather just... Theo, I'd rather just turn up, spend my money.
We'll convince him one day, guys.
Be on the terraces. I do admire what Spencer and Seb are doing at #United. I think that's brilliant. Awesome. It's ground roots. They're building it from, from the bottom upwards, going from 8th level, trying to get into the football. I think that's brilliant, what they're doing.
Would you invest in that?
Go on, Dad, say yes. I would.
Yeah.
If Bitcoin rises a bit more, then maybe I will. Greg Paul was responding to my dad's Instagram messages and stuff. Like, he genuinely wanted to fight. Yeah, he wanted to fight you.
Absolutely, yeah. No, I've had correspondence with Greg Paul.
Are we allowed to see it?